Hello. Hey, I'm Henry, and recently I watched this show, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and I've gotta say, I was blown away. The show was incredible, and today I just had to talk about it. Basically, it's about this guy Shinji and his friends, and they're fighting these big aliens called the Angels in these big mechs called the Avas, and they go fight, and it's really cool. There's deeper elements too, sure, but at the same time, big robot, big alien fight, big explosion. So I wanted to talk about Evangelion today, but not just the anime. Oh no. I wanted to look at everything I could. Merchandising, the movie, just not the rebuild. That's the one thing that we aren't going to talk about because I haven't seen them. So without further ado, let's go into the world of Neon Genesis Evangelion.
まだ知らない痛いけな瞳だけどいつか気づくでしょうその背中には遥か未来目指すための羽があること残酷な天使の手で窓辺からやがて飛び立つほっと走る熱いパトスで思い出を裏切るならこの空を抱いて輝く少年よ神話になれ
So before we jump into this, I just want to say something that may be quite obvious to a few of you. Spoiler warning for a 25-year-old anime. But seriously, before you watch this video, if you haven't seen Evangelion, go watch it because I'm going to spoil the big bits and it's such a good show. You'll just love it. Watch it, please. It's on Netflix. So the year is 2000 and there's this big old disaster called the Second Impact that happens when humans try and make contact with the first of these angels, Adam. And the things don't go great. Most of humanity dies, the sea levels rise. It's basically like global warming on steroids. Generally, a 1 out of 10 experience wouldn't recommend it. But now it's the distant future of 2015. Hoverboards and Jaws 19 are here. This is Shinji. He's an indecisive boy whose dad has just told him to pilot this giant mech, an Ava, so that he can fight the angels and save humanity from a human-destroying disaster called the Third Impact. No biggie, it's just an average Sunday at this point. Shinji fights these angels alongside Rei, a more reserved, quieter girl, less emotional typically, and Asuka, who's the exact opposite, very loud, very egotistical all the time. They're nice foils of each other. And the series goes on like this with a Monster of the Week type format. You know, Shinji and Rei and Asuka go off, fight that week's angel, and they do a cool new thing until about episode 14 or 16. That's when things start to get a little, ooh, different, new, that's kind of weird. What? The show turns into more of a character study almost, going to the depths of these characters. Shinji's motivations are questioned as he decides whether he does or doesn't want to pilot the Ava. He constantly flips and flops. Asuka has her confidence challenged as she realizes, oh, I'm doing worse than Shinji, the new kid. Oh, that's not good. And Rei, well, Rei is revealed to be a clone of Yui, Shinji's mom, and she has like a whole identity crisis of, oh, who am I now? These characters and their traits and attributes really get dissected in the last 2 episodes of this show, which is where things get really, really weird. Human instrumentality is kicked off. So, to explain human instrumentality, I'm gonna have to rewind a bit. So, remember that second impact I mentioned? Well, funny story, it was caused by Yui making an experiment with Adam to try and create the first Eva. However, things didn't go so great. Yui died, her body combined with Lilith, the progenitor of man, and that made Rei, and her soul got trapped inside Evangelion Unit 1. Over the next 15 years, Gendo, Shinji's dad, has Nerve and Seele work together so that they can create more Evas and work on human instrumentality, which was the forced evolution of man. But what is human instrumentality really? Well, that's really simple actually. It's the forced evolution of man to the point that where all our consciousness and souls and minds are combined and our physical forms are destroyed into orange Fanta. Easy. Easy. But we only get to see that in the movies. Gendo worked on this in an attempt to create a way that he could be with his wife again, but in the process it brings up another part of the show with how he's basically just ignored his son Shinji all his life. In fact, we're told in the first episode that Shinji really hasn't seen his dad much as a kid because his dad always works at Nerve and Shinji just does schoolwork and goes and lives with his uncle. Now, I want to be clear, this is one of the most confusing and convoluted endings in any anime or show that I've ever seen. I mean, it has so many interpretations and possibilities that no two that you find online will be alike. One will say, oh, it happened, or one will say, oh no, it was stopped. The way I see it, these last two episodes were made as really great character studies of these characters, and all their souls and minds get merge together and their physical forms disappear, and that's why at the end we see Yui clapping towards Shinji because, well, in this mind world, Yui's alive. But luckily for the average viewer who doesn't have hours of time to investigate why people turn into orange Fanta, there's a movie that explains things way better. The End of Evangelion is a movie that replaces episodes 25 and 26 in the anime, and honestly it's my preferred viewing of the show, to watch episodes 1 through 24, and then the movie. It follows most of the same beats, but there are some new additions, like Rei combining with Lilith to create this giant Rei-Lilith creature, Nerve getting infiltrated by Seele. They're just these way cooler things. The mass-produced Evas and the fight Asuka has with them, top notch, that looks so cool. And then all the mass-produced Evas, how they're contorted and broken bodies just come back together, and then they go ham on Evangelion Unit 2. And then Evangelion Unit 1 combining with the Spear of Longinus to just go for a bit. Pretty nice too. But seriously, this is just an incredible movie as well. It's visually stunning. The animation is incredible and impeccable, especially, like I said, on those scenes with Asuka fighting the mass-produced Evas. It looked beautiful, which I think really helps complement the Evangelion's design. They're definitely mechanical, but they have an air of humanality and organicness to it, which makes sense because they are basically just creatures wearing armor. It also has some just wonderful visuals, like the earth bathed in a red light with the crosses of lime green spotted across all the world, or the scenes with Rei looking at people and them just bursting into Fanta looking stuff, or giant like Lilith Rei standing up above the earth and absorbing human souls, or the ending shot of the movie, which is just the poster basically, Rei's head in the sea as Asuka sits down next to Shinji. I definitely think it is way worth the watch if you haven't seen it yet. Honestly, go watch it now. It's just a way better ending to Evangelion, which is fitting because it's named The End of Evangelion. The advantage that the movie has over the last two episodes of the show is that human instrumentality gets a lot more breathing time, whereas the two episodes that it had in the show equated to about 40 minutes or so of human instrumentality. The movie's an hour and a half long, which gives it just that much more time to breathe and really have the ideas fleshed out. Overall, this is just an incredible anime. It's deserving of being one of the all-time classics. It's got a little bit for everyone. It's got the action. It's so cool to just see these giant robots fight these epic monsters. It looks so visually stunning. It's got the sci-fi elements. All these creatures from space, are they making contact with humans? What? It's got really interesting and in-depth character studies going down to the core of these characters that you come to know and love. Even comedy it has at times with Misato or Pen Pen. They're great comedic relief for the show. If I'm not including the end of Evangelion, this show's already a 10 out of 10 for me. The end of Evangelion makes it maybe 10.5 or 11 out of 10 somehow. This is just a classic anime that I love, and it has quickly become my favorite. This anime is just my favorite, and I hope I've been able to explain why. It's stories of motivation and finding out who you really are in this world. They really resonated with me, and I quite loved them. I hope I've been able to explain why I like this show so much. But as any classic and big anime has, it's got merch. But I think Evangelion can top any anime. Because oh boy, does Evangelion have some merch. Ah yes, the Devil's Toy. Now, I personally quite like the design of Funko Pops with their big heads and small bodies and dead black eyes. I like it, I think it looks fine, and I have enough of them to prove I might be obsessed. That being said, however, it is totally in your right to disagree with that opinion. I mean, it is just an opinion after all. I can definitely see how someone maybe wouldn't like the bigger heads or the smaller bodies, or especially a big complaint I see is those eyes. Like, I totally get it if you don't like it. And if you don't like Pops, well, I'm just warning you now, the Evangelion Pops really accentuate the style. I mean, like, the bodies are just way, way tinier, and the heads are just way, way bigger seeming, and the eyes are also just way bigger seeming. Now, there are a total of 6 Evangelion Pops. One convention exclusive that I don't own because it's just Asuka in a schoolgirl outfit, and I'm not the biggest fan of Asuka, I don't need it. And a metallic bloody Evangelion Unit 1, which actually looks really nice, but I already have Evangelion Unit 1 regular, and it's not that big of a difference enough for me to go on eBay, find it for 5 times the price it originally was, and purchase it. These are the 4 I do own, however. Asuka, Rei, Shinji, and Evangelion Unit 1. I really like these Pops. I just have to get that out of the way. They're all really high quality. The painting and fine detailing on all of these characters looks immaculate. These characters have such tiny bodies, and yet all the details look really sharp and really clean. There's nothing really fuzzy or just weird about them. I really appreciate that. I also really like the poses that they were put in. Shinji's just gotten into his plug suit, which I kind of equate to him having that whole dilemma of, oh, should I keep the plug suit on and go and pilot the Seva, or oh, should I just take this off and run away? Asuka has her hands on her hips, which I really like. I think that's just a very Asuka pose, very confident, very dominant. Rei has her arms behind her back and just looks more quieter, like how you'd imagine someone standing at the back corner of a room at a party would look like. I have no experience with that. Thank you. I will say, as much as I love these Pops, I have 2 complaints. They're small though. Number 1, their feet. Their feet are all wonky. One's always higher or lower than the other, and so none of mine sit evenly, which is really weird because I bought all of them from a different source too. Luckily, this seems to just be a me issue thing. Plus, it's an easy fix if you do. You get a hairdryer, you go and you go and it's normal. Another issue I have that isn't just a crooked foot is Evangelion Unit 1's chest. See, in the anime, Evangelion Unit 1 has this big orange, like, top of their chest section where it looks like sinew and flesh and muscle. And on the Pop, it is a orange ring around their neck. That's not what the design is. I promise you it's not. Luckily, it's not that big an issue because Evangelion Unit 1's head is so massive it covers it up mostly, so you wouldn't even see it if it was there. Overall, despite a couple of smaller issues that some of them are just personal issues, these are really good Pops. I would recommend them to any Evangelion fan that also enjoys the Pop style. I'd say they're an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. I'll leave a link in the description to the Big Bad Toy Store where you can buy them. I'm not affiliated with them. There's no discounts or anything. I just like the Big Bad Toy Store. I also own these two figures here, which both happen to be of Evangelion Unit 0, which also happens to be my favorite Evangelion design. This first one here is the Bandai Limited Model High Grade Model Kit, and it was the first model kit I've ever put together, unless you count Lego sets. I would have to say I had a really good time putting this together. It didn't require that many tools, and it wasn't really that challenging either. It was a good entry point, I think. This figure is pretty big, especially for me who's more accustomed to 4-inch Funko Pops. Standing fully upright, this thing is 8 inches long, so wow. The majority of that height, however, is taken up by these legs. Don't worry, it's animation accurate. They have big legs in anime. This model kit has an excellent amount of joints with a very nice range of mobility in each of them. I particularly really like these elbow joints. They just came out of the box like this. They're really weird. They're like encased in silicone joints, like they're pre-built and everything. I just think they work really nice and they look really cool. However, there always has to be one thing that ruins it, and in this figure, it's the midsection. Yep, the midsection. The joints here aren't terrible, but they're just a little too loose to hold a pose, and as someone who doesn't have a figure stand, that is kind of annoying. However, that's not my biggest issue. My biggest issue with this figure is the amount of stickers. I get it's a cheaper model kit, so not everything's going to be painted on or color separated detail, but it was just kind of annoying, the amount. Particularly, you may notice I painted these two chest parts. That's because originally they were stickers, and they looked terrible, honestly. Other stickers include these knee joints and these back panels, this red rim here, parts of the face as well. I also painted in these black sections in the midsection purely because I like it to be animation accurate, and they were orange out of the box. Now this figure has a ton of accessories, and I mean a ton. First up, there is the umbilical cable. This thing is needed for all Evas. Yep, they're wall-powered. How useless. Along with that, you get an entry plug. This is actually where the pilot sits in the Evangelion, which is pretty nice that they included it. You get a wide variety of hands, which is very useful at holding all these weapons I didn't paint. Yep. You get a pallet rifle, sniper rifle, pistol, a shield, 2 versions of the progressive knife, a battle axe, and the Spear of Longinus. I really like how there's a wide variety of weapons here, but I do just have one small question. Why the battle axe? I honestly don't know if I just don't remember it or anything, but I have no recollection of there ever being a battle axe. To be fair, I haven't read the manga, so maybe it's in there. This figure also comes with these 2 minifigures, one of Rei and one of Gendo. I can't tell if they have a metal armature in them or not. It feels like they do, but I don't want to bend them and break them on accident. They come unpainted out of the box, and I also haven't painted them either, can't you tell? Final accessory you get is this alternate chest piece, which I believe is used to make it look more like the rebuild of Evangelion design. I'm not as familiar with that design though, so take that with a grain of salt. Overall, this was an incredible figure, especially for the price. I mean, $40 for all of this, 15 accessories, and a nice scaled figure. It's an incredible deal. I really like this figure. It'll be a 9 out of 10, giving out a lot of those today. If you want, I'll have a link in the description to where you can buy this figure. Again, the Big Bad Toy Store. Gotta love them. The other Evangelion figure I own is the NX Edge style Evangelion Unit 0 prototype with ESV shield, and I like this figure a lot too. It's a lot smaller of a figure, it's only 4 inches tall, and it's based on the rebuild of Evangelion design, but despite that, I still really like the design. I think this figure looks incredible. I mean, the painting on such a small figure is really nice, and the proportions, while a little stylized, I think work for the design of the figure. But just because I like this figure's design doesn't mean it's without faults. Trust me, there are faults. This figure has terrible joints. Honestly, they are just terrible joints. This figure needs this stand if it ever wants to stand up, because all these joints, while they hold their position, for some reason they can't hold their weight. So take that as you will. The joints are really weird. I can't tell if they're loose or if they're firm or if they're sturdy or if they're just if they're what, or if they're well greased or something. They're really weird. They're like in that limbo state. They can hold their position, but they also can't. There is one piece of this figure I know is loose, and that's the arms. These shoulder parts specifically, because with the tiniest of touch, gone. The shoulders are just never there. They're always gone. Now there are some interchangeable parts here which are really nice, like the shoulders, and it can help to make the Evangelion look a little different, which I appreciate. I think it's a good feature. I'm going to keep it like this, however, because I feel it's much sturdier with these shoulder pylons. This figure also comes with an umbilical cable, a nice inclusion for any Evangelion figure. It plugs right into the stand and then right into the back, which is very nice. It comes with 3 sets of interchangeable hands, always nice, and it can help Evangelion Unit 0 here hold a few things, including a shield and this pallet rifle, which is luckily very nicely painted. Ooh, less work for me. Now, judging from this shield and just from what I can guess, I believe this would be the Evangelion Rebuilds version of that scene where Shinji and Rei both fight Ramiel. And that's all for this figure. It's definitely not got as much as the model kit, but it's still a very nice figure. Despite those weirdly loose or strong joints, I still cannot tell. I still really like it. Plus, this wasn't really meant to be the figure that you handle and play with and shake around a lot, so the joints aren't really designed for that. It's more seeming to be the figure that you put in a position and then you display it, which is why it comes with a stand. Overall, I'm going to have to give this figure an 8 out of 10. It's got some faults, but it's still a pretty nice figure in the end. I'll leave the link in the description if you want to get this one too, but do be warned, this figure is sold out, so it's an eBay link, and well, first come, first serve, let's just say. You can't have a wildly successful anime series without having a game based on it. Of course you can't. Really, there's actually a very wide selection of Evangelion games, like even stuff for the Nintendo DS and further. But I went with the first Evangelion game for the N64, Neon Genesis Evangelion. Now, I have to be upfront here, I have not played the game. I don't own an N64, let alone a Japanese N64, so right off the bat, I haven't played it myself. I mean, do I look like the kind of guy that would own a 25-year-old Japanese games console just to play one game based off his favorite anime? Don't answer that question, actually. Now, despite not having played the game, I have seen a full playthrough of the game thanks to World of Long Plays on YouTube. I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. It's a very nice game from the looks of it. Basically, it's a Smash Bros. Type game where you pilot an Evangelion and you fight the angels. I definitely think this was the right way to go with the N64. I mean, a 3D fighting game on that system would have been a little difficult without the addition of another analog stick. The game itself is pretty much just a retelling of the anime plus the end of Evangelion, so that's already a plus in my book. It's the end of Evangelion. Love that. And that's about it. This game seems fun, but until I've played it myself, I really can't fairly review it. So I'm just going to let you know it exists, let you know what I think of it so far, but I'm not going to give it a rating. I definitely don't feel qualified yet. This here is the Evangelion 3-in-1 manga. Remember when I said I hadn't read the manga? Well, I haven't read a lot of it, okay? It is radically different from the show. Just from the first issue alone, we see Rei fighting the first angel, which is why she's damaged and wounded later on, which explains why she can't pilot AV Unit 1 later on when Shinji gets there. We know from the instant Shinji steps inside the Eva that it is possessed by his mother's spirit. Like, literally, that is not kept for a secret at all. That is just right in the forefront. It's a very different experience, but I like it when there are differences between the anime and the manga. I mean, it's like a whole new retelling of the same story. You get to see a few key differences, and it's really fun to just look at them and be like, wow, that's really weird that it's different. I wonder why it's different there. I guess I'll have to read on or watch on to find out why it's ever so slightly changed or something. Or in Evangelion's case, massively changed. Can't wait to read the second 3-in-1 volume when that shows up in literally July. Thank you, Barnes & Noble, for that pre-order. Yes, I own every other copy of Evangelion manga except for that one. Thank you, Barnes & Noble, for that pre-order. I also own this, The Art of Evangelion Der Monde, and it shows off the artwork of Yoshiyuki Sadamoto, a prolific artist in manga and anime, and particularly this book focuses on his contributions and his working for Evangelion, with a small section at the end for some of his other works. There is just a ton of artwork in this book, and it is all lovely, high quality images printed on in full color. It looks really nice, and I like the cover too, and I like its size. It's nice and big, so you get these big spreads of the artwork. I also really like how it includes the concept art for these characters that I really like black hair Ray. Wow, that was really different. I always really like seeing the concept art of these designs. I mean, it looks really cool to see these characters or anime or anything really, but in a more basic form. I think it's really nice. I definitely recommend this art book to any fan. I mean, it's available basically everywhere, and it's super good with some really nice artwork in it. Go check it out. Oh boy, that was a long title card, but it was very accurate. Evangelion has some incredibly weird merchandise. It's pretty much famous for that. That and its really confusing ending. That's basically what it's famous for. But just to ease you in, I'll start off with an easy one. Official Evangelion bread. I swear this is the more normal of the rest I'm about to mention. Now, before I continue, I would like to remind you that all of this is officially licensed Evangelion merchandising. None of these are bootlegs, these are all real. There's skateboards. Pretty cool designs for the deck. They're really interesting. They're kind of egg-shaped. That's nice. There's a Tamagotchi, you know, kind of normal for a Japanese product to have a Tamagotchi attached to it. There's a Pac-Man one, there's a Gudetama one. I'm sure there's a bunch for other anime, right? There's a onesie, a toaster, a razor. Yeah, Evangelion had an official collaboration with Schick Razors. There's a cooking set, a car, a Godzilla crossover, wedding rings that were advertised with Shinji and Kurosawa. There are official Evangelion apartment units, soap, shampoo, a tool set with every tool that you could ever need or imagine. There's dumbbells. There's probably an Evangelion toilet for all I know. That was just a guess, that last one, but I know it's real somewhere. But dear viewer, you aren't ready for what I would consider the weirdest Evangelion merchandising. Weirder than bread, than a toaster, than bath products, than razors, than an apartment unit. You aren't ready. There exists official Evangelion bowling pin costumes. Costumes of bowling pins designed to look like Evangelion units. I am not making up a single line of this. I will say, while I definitely knew about a lot of these products, some of them I just didn't know about until I saw the Red Bards video on this topic, so I'll leave a link to that in the description. It's a very interesting watch about how you could live an entire day in your life just purely based on Evangelion merch, and you would live comfortably too. Seriously, go check it out. It was great for researching this section of the video. Overall, Evangelion is really special to me. It just had the right stories, the right messages at the right time for me, and I just love it. I can't never not. It is just incredible. It really had a great effect on me, and I hope I've just been able to show you that, even just a little. It's a masterpiece, I believe. Thank you all for watching, and until next time. We just recorded the Evangelion video. This video has been months in the making, yes!